It's your boy, U-Goboy. That's Mongo, all right? This is the U-Goboy podcast channel. But before we start, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. We got unfiltered, authentic conversations. We got sports talk. We got drops. Oh, yeah. So, Mongo, what should they do?
Like and subscribe.
Oh, yeah. Yahtzee. The draft is a fortification of team building. Absolutely. All right? If you're drafting like, the hopes and prayers of your season hinge on your draft, you're already setting yourself up to be in Cancun. You are. You've got to do, I'm not saying drop $500 billion in free agency, but you have to have a plan at least. And the teams that don't do that, again, they're in Cancun, they're in Colombia, come playoff time, and the teams that do the opposite, they're playing. They're playing January football. They're playing February football.
You go, boy.
Yo, you see this face? You see that face? The boys are back in town. Sports Talk, the Super Draft Show. We're back in studio. And Mongo, are you ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
He's ready. Let's go. U-Goboy podcast, Sports Talk, coming at you now. Yahtzee. Whoa. Hey, it's a vibe, nigga. Whoa. Woo. Secure the bag. I need more. Hey, 3P, Jordan. Whoa. Woo. I can't keep it on a low. This a whole vibe. I don't need a plug, no cosign. Thinking out loud, that's a gold mine. Mask on, get a COVID-19. Baby mama, yeah, looking like Rihanna. Rest in peace, George, rest in peace, Brianna. Still kicking like Van Damme with my niggas in Amsterdam. Yes. I just want Kevin Nash's, Steve. I just want Kevin Nash's. You know the vibes. That's all I want. The
band is back together. The band is back together.
Yes.
You go, boy.
You go, boy. Yes. And I'm not here alone. Mongo's in the building. What's up, everybody? Yes, Sirski. Episode 64 of the U-Goboy podcast, live from Bravery Studios.
Bravery up.
In Garfield, lovely Garfield, New Jersey. No more virtual episodes for now. They were fun.
Come out of my secret location.
Exactly, undisclosed locations, palatial estates aside. But we're back in studio. The Draft Super Show, our annual get-together where we break down what happened in the 2025 NFL draft that this year took place in Green Bay, lovely Green Bay. Cheese curds, the land of cheese and chocolate. So, Mongo, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good.
Happy Kentucky Derby Day.
Yes.
Very exciting.
It's raining in Churchill Downs, and rich white people are betting on horses. So,
the way it's meant to be.
The American way. But we're gonna get right to it. We're gonna break down all the winners and losers, sleepers, more sleepers, under the radar guys who came out on top in this year's 2025 NFL draft. So, Mongo, let's talk about round one. Lot took place. Kind of went chalk the first 3 picks. We said Cam Ward, Titans. We said Travis Hunter, not the Browns. The Jags straight up for him. The Jaguars, Duval. I hope their coach learns how to say it. And with the 3rd pick, Abdul Carter, Penn State. He goes to the G-Men who, found their franchise quarterback with Jackson Dart. And believe it or not, do you have that dun, dun, dun? Do you have it, Steve? You have to have it. You have to have it. There we go. One more time, Steve. The Giants, for the 101st year, did not draft a black quarterback. One more time, Steve. Shout out to Off the Top Sports. Try to warn you, June, but don't worry. I'll see you in person. I'll rub that in real life, buddy. But Giants get Jackson Dart. We'll talk about quarterbacks in the next block. But what were your hot takes about the first round, Mongo?
Man, I'll tell you, the best part of this draft is that we can remember it as the Shedeur Sanders draft, and that's what we're going to remember it as. Don't tell me otherwise, because. Listen, a lot happened, a lot of sneaky stuff along the way, but this was not that exciting. we had obviously different team ended up with Travis Hunter, but it's where we expected him to go. As a Jet fan, I absolutely hate that Abdul Carter is going to the Giants. I thought he was the best player in the draft. But overall, I mean, the most exciting part was more what didn't happen than what did happen, right? We expected a quarterback for New Orleans. We expected a quarterback for Pittsburgh, and that started falling, and it led to all the excitement on day 2 and day 3. But overall, about what we expected, and to me, and this will keep coming up as we go, but to me, the biggest thing from round 1 was the disappointment from a fantasy perspective.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tyler Warren going to the Colts, who basically he might be the best quarterback on that roster now. Agbuka is now a wide receiver 4 somehow. I thought he had a chance to be the best wide receiver in the draft. I mean, that's abysmal from a fantasy perspective. A lot of misses if you're just a casual fan, a fantasy fan. But overall, about what we expected from round 1.
Oh yeah. Like the video. So again, the Browns making that move, not a big shocker. There were talks a couple days out that the Browns were open for business. I love their draft haul, by the way. I'm looking right now at NFL.com, their draft grades. And they gave the Brownies. The Brownies did well. The Brownies made out well. They got a B+ overall. But I love this haul. Mason Graham, trenches. That helps out. That helps out their defensive line. Carson Schwarzenegger, one of my favorite linebackers, tackling machine. I look at him as like a baby Sean Lee. One of my favorite running backs, Quinshon Judkins. All right, I wanted a star on his helmet so bad, but him going now to basically, for all intents and purposes, replace Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb. Sorry, drawing a blank there.
Nope, all good.
And they get their quarterback of the future in Dylan Gabriel. Then they get their other quarterback of the future in Shedeur Sanders, and of course Dylan Sampson as well. So I love what the Browns did, and the fact that they were able to move out of that pick. Yeah, Travis Hunter would have been great for them. But I think this haul helps them more sooner rather than later. I think that Hunter's a unicorn. He's going to help you, should help you day 1. But you give me some franchise players at 3 levels now, and the defensive line and Graham and the linebacker position and Schlesinger and a running back in Judkins. I take that.
Yeah, I think, your dirty word for football is the G word, which I think will probably come up at some point when we're talking about these top guys.
Yeah, generational!
In just a few moments. Mine is, my dirtiest word is narrative. I feel that word's going to come up a lot today. That comes up every time we talk about young players. And, some of the drafts that I did not like were those, including my boys, the Jets, who I felt the story got lost. I felt like I couldn't figure out what was going on. With the Browns, it was very easy here. We have Myles Garrett and 52 guys we don't necessarily feel belong on an NFL roster.
True.
If they could have found a way to draft 52 times, they would have drafted 52 times.
Yeah.
And so they made no secret about that. They moved down when they could. I mean, when was the last time a team double dipped on a running back and a quarterback in the first 5 rounds?
Get those Savages going.
That's bizarre.
Savages going.
They needed upgrades everywhere, including backups. So, I really don't mind what they did. I love how, blatant they were, and they went for it. Good on you, Browns.
Savage.
Subscribe to the channel. We got Steve on the boards. He's got the hat to go with the beard. You love to see it. I feel like, we talked about this in the pre-draft episodes that we had leading up to the draft, that this was a great draft for coaching. This was a great draft for developing. This was a great draft if you want to find some Robins. All right, there was only about 3 or 4 Batmen in this draft, all right? And they all went very, very early.
Gannon.
But in terms of Robins, Mason Graham is a great Robin for Myles Garrett. All right, they got the same initials. That should help as well. You got a dominant guy on the interior. That's going to collapse the pocket and make life a little bit easier for Garrett to get to the quarterback. There were talks of the Browns, they were going to go for Carter if he was on the board.
Yeah.
And you have Carter and Grant and Garrett on opposite sides. Good luck. You know what I mean? But again, the Browns did a great job of getting some Robins. Again, double dipping there, getting 2 quarterbacks now, a la Washington a couple years ago when they took RG3, traded $1 billion picks for him. But yeah, they took some guy named Kirk Cousins, and who ended up with the 2nd and 3rd and 4th contracts. It was Cousins. You know what I mean? So, we'll get to Shedeur Sanders. There's a whole narrative around that. But just a couple more draft grades before we get to our respective teams. the Packers, the Packers, the home team here. They were the hosting team and hosting city there. They get a wide receiver in the first round for the first time since Vince Lombardi was head coach over there, and in Matthew Golden. They get another wide receiver in Savion Williams, and they double dip at edge with Baron Soren and Colin Oliver. So the Packers were looking for impact players to make Jordan Love's job easier. And just looking for more impact players. They got an A- from NFL.com. The Texans, round of applause for Texans. I got to give the Texans a round of applause. They typically get rounds of applauses, and then the playoffs happen. But, that aside, they get 2 wide receivers you and me both loved.
Absolutely.
They got my guy, Jaden Higgins, in round 2. They traded out of the first round with the Giants. And then they go get your boy, Jalen Noel, his teammate from Iowa State. So, man, the Texans, they were just like, CJ Stroud, we're going to load you up with as many weapons as possible. You know what I mean? But the offensive line to get Ursary from Minnesota was big because the offensive line was a problem. They had one of the worst offensive lines in football. I felt like they should have gotten more. They only drafted 1 offensive lineman. They probably should have double dipped there. But other than that, I like their moves.
Yeah, they did, and I don't have all the names off the top of my head. You can Google them if you want real quick. But, Cam Robinson didn't come in. Laken Tomlinson didn't come in. I'm blanking on who the 4th guy is. But they brought in basically an entire offensive line around Jared Patterson from a couple drafts ago.
Yeah.
And that's what allowed Houston to do this, right? Because on paper, you look and go, I get that Dell's injured, but, you got Collins, you got Mechie, you brought in Berrios, who's a lock because of his special teams. Justin Watson's there. Christian Kirk you brought in. I mean, you basically brought in your wide receiver 3 and your wide receiver 7, and when Dell comes back, it's even more confusing. But, this is again, you're going to hear me, sorry, spoiler, you're going to hear me rant about the Jets in a minute. Free agency and draft, you need them to go together. You want them to go together.
Yeah.
Houston sets itself up to have a luxuries-only draft by being so relentless in building the trenches in free agency.
Dom DeMarcos, get him going. Get him going, Steve. Let's go.
Dom DeMarcos.
Yeah, and again, we talk about it ad nauseum, team building. The draft is a fortification of team building. Absolutely. All right, if you're drafting like, the hopes and prayers of your season hinge on your draft, you're already setting yourself up to be in Cancun. You are. You've got to do, I'm not saying drop $500 billion in free agency, but you have to have a plan at least. And the teams that don't do that, again, they're in Cancun, they're in Colombia, come playoff time, and the teams that do the opposite, they're playing. They're playing January football. They're playing February football. So I gotta give some love to the Raiders too. Round of applause for the Raiders. They get my guy, Ashton Genty. The dream died. When the dream died, shout out to my boy Rob Mega. We toasted some bubblies to that when the dream died for Ashton Genty. But I love their early haul, man, of Genty. Jack Beck was one of my favorite under the radar receivers out of TCU. Darian Porter, a 6'2" corner. They got themselves some playmakers, and they double dipped at wide receiver, I believe. Yes, they did, and offensive line as well. Because again, if Pete Carroll's going to do one thing, Pete Carroll's going to draft a running back. It's not a matter of if, it's when. They take the best running back in the draft class. And speaking of running backs, round of applause to the running backs. The running back class was exactly what we thought it was.
Yeah.
This was generational. Yes, this was a generational running back class. And the Raiders took advantage by grabbing the cream of the crop. Rest in peace to Randy Savage and Ashton Genty. But I like what they did. What's another team that really stood out here? A team in your division. How about the Miami Dolphins? They get Kenny Grant from Michigan. They needed trenches, and their first 3 picks were all trenches. This wasn't one of my favorites, but I just wanted to get your take on them real quick because I think their QB1 might have been drafted in round 7 in Quinn Ewers. I'm just saying, give me a savage there. Give me a savage. I think Quinn Ewers is going to be
savage. He's
going to be QB1 in about a year or 2. I think Tua might be on his way out. But again, they go trenches with Kenny Grant, with Jonah Savinia from Arizona, and Jordan Phillips, again, one of my under the radar defensive tackles from Maryland. But and Ollie Gordon too. They grabbed Ollie Gordon, Oregon State, a really, really good Oak Street, Oklahoma State, really good running back, little baby Derrick Henry. Yeah, the name escaped me. But what are your thoughts on what your division did? Before we get to the Jet talk, we'll get to the Jet talk. Don't worry. But what did you feel about what the Dolphins did, what the Patriots did? The Patriots also they did some work too, as well as other teams in your division as well.
Yeah, again, it's listen. I want to take a hard left from just running this down everyone's throat, but it really comes down to who stuck to their guns and who didn't. And shout out Patriots and Dolphins for sticking to their plan. New England wanted help for Drake May. Will Campbell and Henderson from Ohio State are going to do that about as well as anyone's going to. And Miami said if they can break a scale, they can be on our team next year.
Savage.
And that's what they did.
Savage.
So, if I'm a Dolphin fan, I go to the bar that night, I drink a few. My buddy talks me off a ledge, and I go, okay, you're right. Because it's a boring draft. Listen, the Jets have had them before, too. Every team has had them where, it was a vegetables draft. It was a medicine draft for Miami.
Meat, potatoes, and vegetables.
Yeah.
Facts.
You got to eat them. You got to do what you need to do to stay healthy. And the Dolphins did what they needed. The Patriots, had that sort of weird free agency where they had infinity dollars and seemed to go for quantity over quality.
Milton Williams, Stephon Diggs, they gave him like $70 million for coming off ACL, which is crazy. But, here we are.
So they needed to kind of fill in those more dramatic plugs that they didn't spend on. So going and getting a left tackle and going and getting a running back, is again that idea of the draft complementing free agency. I think both teams did a very good job of that.
Subscribe to the channel. Here, episode 64, Draft Super Show. Again, the Pats, they got Will Campbell. They got Trevion Henderson. Kyle Williams, another under-the-radar wide receivers. They decided not to go the running back route, but then other than Henderson. But Henderson and Stevens, that should be an interesting 1-2 punch. They're trying to just build around. Listen, they needed talent. All right, they were one of the most talent-poor teams in the draft. Patriots, as well as the Dolphins. But I think the Pats, with all that money in free agency, like you mentioned, and all these picks, they decided to go, with, like you said, quantity. And I think that they definitely got better. But
real quick, I don't want to go totally off here, but just real quick, this Judkins and Henderson being drafted both in the top 40 here.
Yeah.
Did you see this list of teammates who have been both running back teammates who have been drafted in the top 40 in the last 35 years or something like that?
I didn't see that.
It's Chubb and Sony Michel, which
Georgia.
With Georgia, which Sony Michel didn't quite pan out the way you'd want him to. I mean, decent, but
he got the ring.
Not what you'd want in the top. I mean, he got the ring. McFadden and Felix Jones.
Oh God.
And then the third pair was Cadillac Williams and Ronnie Brown, who only went to one Pro Bowl as the second overall pick because he was big in the Wildcat. So, just kind of a warning. I mean, those aren't guys you'd call busts by any means, but, if you're out there with like the 3 and 4 in your dynasty drafts planning to draft those guys back to back, historically one of these guys is going to underdevelop a little.
I can name some busts in that list, but I'm not. I'm in a good mood. But I think, I think it's about that time. I think it's time for a pipe bomb. I think it's time for a pipe bomb.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Get him going. Get him going, Steve.
Pipe bomb.
This pipe bomb is brought to you by U-Goboy merch. Grab the merch. Mongo's got the hoodie.
U-Goboy.
I've got the shirt. We both have the hat. Come to live shows. Get yourself some gear. We're going to talk about this pipe bomb is shared because the pipe bomb is going to carry over and be the segment for our respective teams.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
One more, Steve.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, they went with the 3 letters, not RKO, the three favorite letters of everybody that follows draft nerddom. BPA, best player available. Yes. Give me another one. Give me another one. Shout out to Jay Uso. Congrats on winning the belt from Gunther. Steve chose violence today. So BPA. Let's get to the cons first before I get to the pros of what Dallas decided to do. If you're gonna tell me, similar to like 2 episodes ago, you're going to tell me that Jalen Tolbert and Jalen Brunson and Jalen Brooks and Jalen Hurts are going to be the wide receiver 2 for the Cowboys. going into the 2025 season. I have a timeshare in Iowa. I would love to sell it to you. You know what I mean? Seth Rollins probably has it. You know what I mean? It's in Davenport. The fact that Teteroa McMillan was snatched from us by the Carolina Panthers, that was the Cowboys pick. That's who we were going to go with. That was the apple of our eye.
Real quick, criminally underrated draft, by the way. The Panthers. Love that draft.
Agreed. They get some love, too. They definitely did some nice things over there in Carolina. They're still going to finish with 5 wins, but that's neither here or there. But the fact that the Cowboys did not get a wide receiver 2 is worrisome. It is. It has to be worrisome if you're a Cowboy fan. And I have to drop a pipe bomb on that because Mingo is our wide receiver 2. And I know that Stephen Jones and Jerry Jones and Brian Schottenheimer and everybody, give me a couple more of those, please. They've been trying to sell this to us. They've been trying to sell us this timeshare for a couple months now that Jonathan Wingo Star, like the Ringo Star, they've been trying to sell this for a couple months now that this is our wide receiver 2 by default.
So give another Don Lemon.
Lord, where is Joe Beningo when you need him? Lord, I gotta see it. I gotta see what happens this preseason. I gotta see what happens in the OTAs because right now we don't have one. And that worries me a lot, bro.
It feels so manufactured. Feel free to start the conspiracy music here. To a point where you got to wonder, did they trade for Mingo instead of just waiting for him to get cut like he would have inevitably been, just so they could better justify having to play him next year? Like, doesn't this feel like we made Mingo valuable just so we can pretend it matters when he's the one trying to fill those gaps? And by the way, if you're out there listening going, haven't I heard that Jalen thing before? Yeah, literally go back 3 episodes. He verbatim, that was promised by Hugo about 6 weeks ago that Jalen Palooza was going to end up happening and it was going to be a disaster.
I'm okay with the Tyler Palooza on the offensive line, but the Jalen Palooza at the wide receiver room, hell no, man. Hell no. But those are the cons. Let's go with the pros. The good side of the BPA. I love the fact that Dallas did not overreach. Steve chose violence. Did not overreach for need as we've done in years past. Mm-hmm. Mozzie Smith, who's a bust. That was a reach for need. You wanted to stop the run? Let's just take the really strong guy from Michigan. Storied program, but okay tape. He's our first-round pick. Disaster. Tyler Guyton, not going to say he's a bust yet. After this year, as we mentioned in previous episodes, I will make my determination after this year if he is a bust. But right now, not looking good. But he will start next year at left tackle. That was a reach. That was a project, and it was a reach. 2 back-to-back projects, back-to-back reaches. Tyler Booker is not a reach. He was the #1 ranked guard in the draft. He went to Alabama, was dominant. Give me some Ric Flairs. Was dominant at Alabama. At guard. First team All-American. You want to fortify the trenches, especially when you've got an aging quarterback that has proven when he's got a running game, when he's got a clean pocket, top 5 quarterback. And you did that with Booker. You did that. When you've had 3 first-rounders on your offensive line, how did it look? With Travis Frederick, Zach Martin, and Tyron Smith? Looked pretty good. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with the Cowboys finding a Robin for Micah Parsons and Donovan Easy from, let me say it in a Nigerian accent, Ezeraku. Yes, because my cousin was mad that I didn't pronounce Ebuka. I didn't say it Nigerian enough for him, so that's the Nigerian style for you. But Donovan Easy, getting him from Boston College, one of the top, he led the nation in pressures last year and finished 2nd in sacks all together in the FBS. You get sacks in the college football, you get sacks in the NFL. That's how it goes. And again, they double dipped at running back, which they surely needed. Getting Blue, the fastest running back in the draft class, getting Maffa, a hammer later on, and they double dipped at defensive tackle. You want project defensive tackles? You don't take them in round 1. You take them in round 3 on day 3, like we talked about in last episode. That's when you go for it with your lottery tickets. And we took 2 real big nasties that can't see their feet when they stand up. We took 2, one from UCLA and one from Maryland in the later rounds. So I love the strategy. Can they actually play? We'll get to that, down the road when we get closer to when preseason's over and the games are about to count and how our teams look after the full offseason plans are executed. But I love the plan and execution. There were no reaches. We did not reach for a single pick. And I think that's going to pay dividends for us, and that should get us back to the playoffs. Tell me when I'm telling lies.
Pipe
For sure.
Tell me when I'm telling lies.
I think the Cowboys got bailed out actually twice in the draft. I think a lot of teams. I think the Giants were probably the biggest team that got bailed out after they made their trade for their, what I texted you, traditional quarterback.
Yeah, they were talking about. Sorry, I got to jump in. They were talking about Jackson Dart. He's got a lot of similar traits to Josh Allen. You mean that he's white?
Savage.
You mean that he's white? He's white. Anglo-Saxon?
Savage.
He has a lot of similarities to every Giant quarterback ever also. But I think two huge bailout spots for the Cowboys, if that will, in hindsight, make this look better. The only question I have is how much would it have come back to hurt them? To me, Egbuka was the pick there. I really love that. It's hard not to be a little upset about that. But there's a real chance he just rots in Tampa Bay for a while. I mean,
him and Baker ain't gonna cook.
Who is it? Is it Michael K's show where they always say who you taking out when they talk about putting someone in the top 5, right?
Yep.
Who's he replacing? He has to be better than Jalen McMillan, which is not a gimme, just to even crack the rotation. I mean, that's such a bizarre draft pick. He's such a good player, and I mean, it's a great future draft. But the Cowboys could easily be back in the playoffs before Egbuka is even a rotational player there. And then also the Falcons making that bizarre trade back into the first round.
Giving up a 1.
Giving up a 1 after the Giants had just not given up a 1, literally a pick earlier, just to show there is no limit to how far you can go to meet your needs.
To get your white quarterback? Go ahead.
No, not the Giants, the Falcons. The Falcons. The Falcons showed you can do whatever. I mean, the Falcons started with 5 picks in this draft.
Yeah.
Traded away 2 picks in next year's draft, a 1 and a 5, and still ended up with 5 picks. I mean, that's borderline tax fraud. I mean, it's bonkers what the Falcons did, but they felt they had a need and they did what they needed to do. So how can you fault anyone else who accomplished, are there people out there who think, your first round pick was a little bit of a reach? Yeah, absolutely. Some people had him in the second round, and a lot of people had him in the late first round. But then you look at what the Falcons Stretch Armstrong. That wasn't a reach. That was bonkers. So other teams being more insane in their moves, I think makes it was a solid pick anyway look even better. So definitely some help there from some other less than competent teams.
For sure. And shout out to Vach Lombardi. Team suck at drafting. Like I've said that a billion times. Vach has too. It's just facts. And I think the Bucs, in their minds, they're not sure if Chris Godwin's going to even play next year. So I think that's why the Egbuka pick was even more of a pressing need for them. I think an underrated move that I didn't talk about enough was our third-round pick, Revel, who we talked about in the previous episode.
Great
to get a guy that was going to be a top 15 pick or top 20 pick borderline in pretty much everybody's mock had he not gotten hurt.
Right.
To get him in the 3rd round, you can't beat that. That's a Dom DeMarco right there. That's a Dom DeMarco. And the fact that they don't know when the hell Trey Diggs is going to play again.
Yeah.
Trey Diggs can start the season on PUP. He can play in week 1. He can come in week 12. He can not play at all. Like, they have no timetable on Trey Diggs. It very well could be his last year in Dallas. They had to make this pick.
Right, and in a world where you see the Chargers, Tampa, some other teams drafting looking like they're Houston, right, looking like they're going to have 5 receiver sets out there, I refuse to believe you can have enough elite corners. Have 5 of them. By the way, if anyone's out there getting ready, other than diehard Buck fans ready to trash me on the Egbuka take, my challenge to you is name 3 Bucks defenders, and then you can tell me they made the right move going offense in the first round. What a disastrous division that is.
The South?
I mean, the Panthers won 5 games. They got better, and they may be my pick to win that division this year.
At 5 wins.
I mean, what a bizarre division.
The South never...
3 wild drafts and the Panthers.
The NFC South never lets us down. They have been like the backbone of this show since its inception. So thank you, NFC South.
The Shuck to New Orleans, just the epitome of the NFC South pick.
You said Shuck? Shuck is one of those, stand by, generational guys. Tyler Shuck. Oh my God. If Will Warren had a younger brother, white and blonde, with tons of potential, he is Carson Wentz. I looked at his tape because I had to like make sure that I was locked and loaded and ready to go for the Super Show. I see Carson Wentz. I see Carson Wentz sprinkle a little Will Levis. That's what I see. That's what I see. That's who he is. And they decided to go with that over Shedeur Sanders. Whew. Kellen Moore, you never seem to disappoint me. But let's get to your Jets. We got to get to the Jets.
We covered about 12 teams in a conscious effort by me to avoid having to have this conversation. In case you're wondering why is Mongo all over the league, it's because I was hoping we'd cover the other 31 first and just run out of time.
We'll get to more teams. We'll get to more sleepers. But perfect. The Jets, they decide to go with Will Warren. Oh, sorry. Tyler Warren. Oh, nope, sorry. They decide to go with Membo in round one, just as we had predicted in the pre-show.
Promised. Guaranteed on this, sarcastically, but guaranteed on this show.
Yes. Every mock, bro, for the past 2 months, every mock was saying you guys were all in on Membo to fortify that offensive line. And that's what you guys went with. And then, just to slap you in the face just a little bit more, so we're going to pass on the tight end that you really want, and then we're going to take Jason Taylor's second nephew twice removed or son, whatever, Mason Taylor, in round 2. Talk about the Jets draft. The floor is yours.
Thanks. This is what I want to do on my weekend. This is the dream. Hey, listen. Let me say, a lot of people like this draft. I saw a lot of A-minuses, a lot of A's out there on these sites that have I guess as much of a clue as we do.
B plus by NFL.com.
There you go. Right? Yeah. No one's trashing it. And here's what I feel is the necessary caveat. If the Jets were an expansion franchise, I give this draft the same A-, B+ everyone's giving it. I don't mind these players in a vacuum. I don't mind the logic of, there was definitely a distinct drop-off at offensive tackle after Brooks. The top portion of that was way shallower than the top portion of the tight end. So as much as I felt tight end was actually even a bigger need, okay, fine. But the thing is, just directionally, this draft makes no sense.
Savage.
You look at this is a team that last year, we lost literally 2 games back to back. The Denver game was the first one where if they were stuck in their own zone, they couldn't get out. And throughout the whole year, 2nd and 12 was just you might as well punt. This is a franchise that does not have the talent to be able to get out of 2nd and long, 3rd and long, deep situations. And so you go and get a tackle, freak athlete, cool, but his weaknesses are listed as that he will either overrun or he'll either overrun a player on runs or he'll forget about a player during extended pass plays, basically screaming he's either going to give up 3-yard losses on first down runs or big sacks on 3rd down periodically. The one thing this Jet team does not know how to overcome is what you just spent your first round pick on allowing to happen. It makes no sense. And then, you look at, we way overpaid on Stevens and Cisco, the corner from Baltimore and the safety from Jacksonville.
Facts. Because
you figure, and you're thinking, okay, fine, if that's going to be our approach, let Aaron Glenn be the defensive back whisperer. But then you go out and, on days 2 and day 3, you get, Thomas and you get the cornerback and you get Malachi Moore from Alabama, who are, if nothing else, NFL ready. And you're like, why did we spend all that money? It's a draft that in turn just makes free agency an absolute F. Because on top of that, C.J. Mosley, God bless him, he was trying, but ultimately our big problem on defense is he would inevitably give up the big play, and our offense couldn't recover, right? So you go out and go get on day 3, 2 guys from the front 7 of Miami, the Hurricanes. Listen, they were a top 15, 16 team last year, but they were 38th overall in yards per play on defense. They were barely in the upper third of the NCAA in allowing yards, right? Which was the Jet problem. They would inevitably give up those big plays along the way. So I don't understand this draft coming off of what we just saw last year. And that's my major problem. I think they did enough in this draft to stay better than Tennessee. I think they need to build around Cam Ward. I think they did enough to stay better than Cleveland, who has, what's the old saying? If you have 11 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
Yep.
Because that's the Cleveland Brown strategy this year, right? But they're still worse than the entire AFC West. They're still probably fourth in their division. They're still worse than Baltimore. They're still worse than Houston now with their 11 wide receivers, right? They've set themselves up beautifully to be drafting somewhere between 8 and 15 next year. And what on earth is the point of that? I would have much rather started this draft with Tyler Warren, let him stink for a year like most, rookie tight ends do, stink next year, and be in line for at least a much better player, because you're not going to the playoffs this year, and now you've put yourself into a serious, purgatory situation. I do not like this draft for the arc of where the Jets are right now. And the one argument you can make is, well, if Fields stinks, there is no arc, right? We just go off a cliff this year. And, we move forward from there. We could have done that anyway, right? Why go get Fields in the first place? Why overspend on Cisco, and Stevens in the first place? There were way easier ways to make this team bad than to just have a vanilla draft and a vanilla free agency class. So I don't like this from the perspective of who the Jets currently are and where they're coming from. Individually, nice players. Nobody tell me that I don't like Membo. I like him. I think he's going to be a Pro Bowler in the NFC East in 6 years. Not to say that's going to be that's going to be the story, but that's how it goes for us. But this draft just makes no sense.
It's your boy, U-Goboy, and my friends at New York Posse. They're going to hook you up with some official gear. The Knicks are hotter than ever, and they're going to get you right with some official snapbacks, beanies, official gear, official like tissue, baby. Hit that promo code below, 2024. Get 20% off on all New York Posse gear. Hit the link below, and they're going to get you right. It's your boy, U-Goboy. Yahtzee.
Subscribe to the channel. 2 quick questions.
Sure.
Why didn't you guys draft Shedeur Sanders? Because, again, if your plan is, okay, we believe Fields is our guy moving forward, what has he shown you in his career with the Bears and with the Steelers and soon to be UFL? What has he shown you to make him seem like, oh yeah, that's our guy, we can win with this guy? Because this isn't the Big Ten. All right, if this was Ohio State, if he was surrounded by 10 5-star guys, a la Will Howard, okay, sign me up for that in college football. What has Fields shown you to make you feel like, yeah, he's better than Shedeur? That's number one. Number two, this was a draft of Robins, as we mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. That's the theme here. Is Azria Thomas, who I like, by the way. I like him. He's Wanye's brother who plays the Cowboys. I like him as a corner. I like him as a second corner. So I think you guys hit on that as a Robin to Sauce Gardner. Why draft Mason Taylor then, when you could have gotten Warren, who I felt was better, and you felt as well was better in round 1?
Those are 2 great questions, because they're the 2 questions I asked myself Friday morning and then Saturday morning, to be quite honest.
Dom DeMarco.
Shout out to one of our avid listeners, Dan. He's a diehard Eagles fan. He actually is waiting for us to start going live again on Saturday so he can call in and just have an NFC spat with you. So be on the lookout for that. So we worked together, and on that Friday morning after the draft came, I left work that day, and I promised him. I said, Shedeur Sanders' basement is 42. I thought the Jets would not only do it, I thought they'd be stupid not to do it. I'm with you 100%. Now, obviously, they could have got him in the 4th. They could have got him anytime they wanted. Yeah. But to me, once you pass on Warren, and this kind of leads into your second question, to me the move was Sanders in the 2nd. And then trade up for Harold Fannin in the 3rd. He ended up getting taken a few picks before they could draft him, but you could have just secured that by trading up. But to me, after Warren, the tight ends were fairly. I didn't even have Loveland on the same level as Warren. I mean, clearly the Bears did. Clearly a lot of teams did. But to me, Warren's versatility, made him a unicorn. Everyone else was just. There were about 5 guys who just fell in the category of really good tight end. And so I would have gone that way at that point. But honestly, I'm 100% with you. I thought Sanders was the obvious 2nd-round pick, let alone any pick they could have gotten into on day 3. Just start trading Falcons it, right? Just start trading future assets to keep coming into day 3 at that point. So I would have definitely liked him, because honestly, what's the worst case scenario? If Fields turns out to be a stud. I mean, you have Sanders as a backup, or you trade him for a 6th-round pick. If you took him in the 4th round, it's not the end of the world. To me, my big problem, and again, we're seeing this more and more with the Jets. We're seeing it actually more with every team except the Knicks. God bless Dolan for having no soul. But if you're a New York team, how can you be afraid of Shedeur Sanders? How can you be afraid of Deion Sanders? You need to actually move out. If you're going to tell me the Jets are Giants, now the Giants were different, right? They felt his interview skills were terrible. But if you became one of those 15 to 20 teams that got away from Shedeur Sanders on day 3, just because you felt, okay, now the hype train was getting too high, Deion coming in is going to be a problem. Welcome to New York, where everyone's a problem, right?
Literally.
I mean, it's literally you bring in guys like how Draymond Green doesn't retire a Knick. It just doesn't make sense to me. Like, this is the town where you're supposed to hate everybody, where you're supposed to bring in guys just because they're great on the mic. I mean, it is embarrassing if they were afraid of the Sanders family. So I'm with you completely there. And along those same lines, I don't understand passing up on Tyler Warren. Your new offensive coordinator requires a tight end, but also requires gadget players, right? I mean, he comes from we throw the ball to Dan Skipper tree, right? I mean, you need some guys who can do a lot. You saw the Packers basically take a 7th wide receiver. I'm higher on Wicks and Melton, by the way, than most people are, but I think they're NFL level players. And so Savion Williams is like the 7th receiver on that team, but he's a gadget, right? He's an asset. He's an asset in that sense. Warren could be that guy. Warren can line up as a fullback. He can go out as a receiver. He can run the ball over the middle like they do with Mark Andrews, right? So I thought he was definitely a special player. I would have taken him 100% and literally dedicated the year to developing him because, again, at the end of the day, what is the purpose of this Jet season coming up? And to me, it's convincing Sauce and convincing Brees and convincing Garrett Wilson to buy in long term.
Yeah.
And if I'm one of those guys, shiny toys are going to intrigue me way more than, well, we showed we know how to check boxes, right? Because that's what this draft felt like. This draft felt like they put Madden on auto draft and went to the bar early.
Oh, yeah. Facts,
and
facts.
If I'm one of those guys, why would that impress me? Because you can auto draft for 10 straight years. You're not going to be better than Josh Allen. You're not going to be better than Mahomes. You're not going to be better than Lamar. You need to take chances. You need to do something different. And it stuns me that this was the time they thought, let's just get a tiny bit better and make our way up to 7 wins, 8 wins, especially in a deep quarterback draft next year. It was a weird draft. And you're absolutely right. Those were my 2 big what-if questions. Why did we pass on those guys?
Subscribe to the channel. I mean, like we always do every year, we talk about the teams that were on top of the mountain at the end. We talk about the teams that were in the Super Bowl, and of course the team that won the Super Bowl. What the Eagles did is what good teams do. Same thing what the Ravens do every year. Okay, so teams suck at drafting. They're going to pass up on a good player, and a good player, and a good player. Oh, we don't have to do anything. Our BPA is a guy that we thought we had no chance of getting, but he's here.
Yeah.
And Jahad Campbell, yeah, he's coming off an injury, so I think him getting dinged up is a big reason why he ended up with the Eagles. But their first 5 picks were all defensive, and they have a dominant defense already. For them to get Campbell and Makuba and Ty Robinson and Mac McWilliams and Samuel Mondin Jr., another Georgia player, shocker. This is what good teams do. And you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. For them to get a guy we talked about before, the kid from Ohio State, Simmons.
Right.
They needed a left tackle. So they take a left tackle. They get him. And I believe they got Jalen Royals from Utah. A second-round wide receiver. They get him in the 4th.
Great pick.
They get Norman Lott, defensive tackle from Tennessee. They get another good edge, Ashton Gillott from Louisville. Again, this is just, and they get Brashard Smith, one of those amazing running backs that in an amazing, generational running back class. You know what I mean? They grab one from SMU. The teams at the top show you how it's done year in and year out. You have a plan and you go BPA.
That's right.
Because it's not just one or the other. If you're just going to go BPA but you don't have a plan, it defeats the purpose. Okay, so we're just going to take the best player available. Okay, but you've got 15 holes, and you address 2 of them. But you said BPA. It's about marrying the 2. Taking BPA, trusting your board, not window dressing your board. Shout out to Brian Broaddus, love you, dog. And addressing your needs at the same time. Not weighing one higher than the other, marrying the 2. The good teams do that year in and year out. And I'm going to give credit cautiously to Brian Schottenheimer because one of the big reasons why Will McClay re-signed on to be the pseudo general manager is because the front office agreed that they're going to give him more power in this run, and that means the Cowboys actually have a chance if that's the case. Because if you mean to tell me that Stephen Jones isn't leading the charge, or Jerry, they're not leading the charge. Yeah. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. But again, the teams at the top, they show you how it's done every year, man. It's just it's mind-boggling that the teams below they haven't picked up by now. But then again, teams suck at drafting.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned them, but just to really bring this idea home, the Ravens, and I know you're going to scoff at this source, but other teams had it, but we'll use the one I just saw today because he's been backtracking nicely. Nick Wright, your boy, had
the Bond villain.
The two guys who the Ravens got at 27 and 59 were both in Nick Wright's top 25.
There you go.
So just there, but here's an even bigger example. Walter Football, who I have a lot of respect for, traditionally trashes anybody who takes the time to draft a punter or a kicker, or in this case, someone drafted a long snapper somewhere along the way out of Vanderbilt, whoever that was. Good on you guys. But right here's a case, right? We have the whole nonsense with Justin Tucker and what's going on off the field, and so Baltimore burns a pick, which is very unlike them at all, let alone many teams, to take a kicker, right? To send a very clear message about what's going on. Meanwhile, we're basically just living in Deshaun Watson purgatory in Cleveland for the better part of a decade here, and that's the difference between a good franchise and a bad franchise. Baltimore goes out and says, here is our stance on Tucker. That stance is, here's your replacement, buddy.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Cleveland is not afraid to continue trying to figure out the Watson situation every year. Why is Baltimore good and Cleveland bad? That's a large part of it, guys.
Their first 5 picks were on, their first 4 picks were on defense, very similar to the Eagles. Yeah, they go Starks.
Buffalo went super fast.
And Buffalo as well. Like Baltimore takes Starks, Green, Jones, and Teddy Buchanan, who I loved out of California. Great linebacker there.
I love Baltimore, by the way, doubling up on LSU offensive line and taking Dellinger in the 7th. Just so, a little bit more comfortable going into camp. I like that.
You love trenches. You dominate the trenches, you go to the playoffs every year. And like you mentioned with Buffalo, they beefed up on the defensive line. They double-dipped on defensive tackle. Sanders and Deion Walker. Deion Walker's 6'7". Should be playing in the freaking NBA playoffs right now. And they get a corner. And an edge.
Which again, this is by the way part of my problem with this Jet draft. Again, context, narrative. I'll talk about that word until I'm blue in the face here. To me, the Falcons easily had the worst draft by a mile in the league. Chicago going with the safer of the tight ends and then a gadget wide receiver to me was a little bit weird. So I have them at 31. But even that's not a terrible draft. I mean, what they did the rest of the way was okay. But nobody really had a bad draft. And so, if I dock the Jets a letter grade for, context, B- might be the 3rd worst draft in the NFL this year. And so if you're a team that already had a mediocre free agency and already has probably the most questions in the league by virtue of being one of the few left without a real long-term plan at quarterback, then coming out and having the 30th best draft, like the Chiefs can afford to have a bad draft. The Eagles can afford to have a bad draft. Yeah. The Jets can't afford to be at the back of the pack, even if it was an okay draft. You got to look at the other 31 teams and go, everyone got better than us this weekend, and that's why it's a bad draft at the end of the day.
Like the video. We're gonna bring things on home with some rapid fire. This episode of Rapid Fire is brought to you once again by Bravery Studios, of course, the
Bravery Up,
as well as U-Goboy merch.
Grab
the merch link below, as well as New York Posse, link below. We'll go back and forth, 3 rounds, and then we'll get up out of here because Steve wants to drink and I do too.
Fair enough.
Kick it off right here, Mongo. You can only pick 3. Which 3 rookie quarterbacks are set up for long-term success?
Ooh, okay. Now, I know it's rapid fire, but just real quick, so no one yells at me here. The way he worded that, who's set up for it? Not who will cash in on it, but who is set up for it. Cam Ward has to be first there because if you're the first pick, they're going to do everything they humanly can. Jackson Dart getting to sit for a year, and now having. Basically an elite defensive front 7, he can win games 10-3 next year. He literally can. That defense is money. And then this is going to shock you, but because of the way you worded the question, Shedeur Sanders is set up for success. I mean, he could literally never play a game, and he's a lock to be on Big Brother, Celebrity Big Brother in 5 years.
Dom DeMarco.
He's a lock to be on The Masked Singer. He's a lock to be on Dancing with the Stars. I mean, you're talking about who's going to be successful. It's the circus that's happening in Cleveland. Sorry. It's a cheat answer, but it's the answer.
They say he lost like $50 million. That's what Chris Carter say he lost $50 million.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to make it back.
He'll make that back in Fox reality shows real quick.
Facts.
What's that one where JoJo Siwa was in the military a few years ago?
Something Survivor or something like that.
That one. He's gonna come in third on that one.
Yeah,
Cam Newton was on this
Cam
past
Newton
season.
and Dwight Howard were on that show too.
Yeah, he's gonna be on that show. You can book that right now.
Now streaming on Hulu. Go ahead.
Sorry. I went rogue with that answer. We'll go quicker.
It's okay.
Who wins Defensive Rookie of the Year?
Oh, man. If Travis Hunter plays corner, he's got a good shot, but I think Abdul Carter.
All right.
I think he's going to get double-digit sacks. What was your favorite draft pick of the entire draft? Which pick were you just like, nailed it?
Ah, man. God, what a loaded question. I'm going through all 32 teams here as quickly as I can. You know what? I'll stick to my guns because this would have been my favorite pick if the Jets had him, and so it's got to be based on where he fell. Malachi Starks to the Ravens is just the most Raven pick imaginable. It is the most. Him and Kyle Hamilton are going to be filthy together. He's a steal at that value. Baltimore proving why they Baltimore on us every year. It's got to be Malachi Starks.
Go for it. Yeah, true.
If you are the Saints general manager, what would you have done with that pick that turned out to be Shuck?
I would have traded down, and I would have taken Shedeur Sanders. It's not hard. I don't think Shuck he's Carson Wentz. He's Carson Wentz and even more injury prone. He just is. Like, this is a guy who was a 7-year starter. I'm looking at Steve when I say this. 7-year starter in college. This guy played with Justin Herbert. He was teammates with Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's in, what, year 4? This he's like 30 years old as a rookie. That's what you're banking on?
Brandon Whedon, like Chris Winkie.
Chris Winkie. Yeah.
Put him in with everybody.
Chris Winkie to eat your heart out. Like, that's your freaking franchise quarterback? Good freaking luck, okay? Lord. Give me a boomy.
Boomy.
You know I'm right. Give me, please. Like,
Love me.
I need it.
Hate me. You won't do it because you know I'm right.
Let's do one more real quick and then we'll get up out of here. Were you shocked by the run on running backs and defensive tackles?
No, not really. I think the biggest shock to me on the running back side, Omarion Hampton's placement, with the Chargers.
You thought he would have gone higher or would have gone lower?
I thought he would have not gone to the Chargers. I was surprised to see the Chargers do that. I really thought they were either going to try and trade up to get Egbuka or take a receiver even there. I mean, they ended up with 2 receivers. I thought Najee Harris was brought in to be their true bell cow, which he clearly was not. Or he is, and Hampton's just going to sit for a year. So I thought that was kind of weird. But overall, no, I thought everyone kind of went to a logical place. I thought that, I mean, in a world where the wide receivers got really, really screwed collectively in terms of their fantasy settings, the running backs really managed to find their footing nicely. I love that the league has finally just figured out you can never have enough fat guys. So no. In fact, I'm a little disappointed there weren't more defensive tackles. This is how many years in a row did the Eagles just take the fattest guy from the West Coast in the 7th round?
Or from Georgia.
They bookend Georgia and fat guy every year. And hey, look at that. They're in the Super Bowl every couple of years.
Cheer me.
There you go, Steve.
Love me.
I was waiting for it.
Hate me.
So it
you won't
definitely
do
works.
it. Because you know I'm right.
Thanks. All right, last question. Bring it on home.
I'll bring it full circle by asking who's taking home the offensive Rookie of the Year award.
Ashton Jeanty.
All right.
And he should. I mean, against Pete Carroll, so he's going to get 500 carries this year. And how about the irony? The Seattle, I was about to say Supersonics. The Seattle Seahawks. They take Martinez on day 3. They have like 5 running backs already.
Yep.
They've got Charbonnet. They've got Kenny. What's the guy name?
You want to say
Walker.
Loggins? I know you were about to say Loggins.
Almost did. Kenneth Walker the third. I think Marshawn Lynch is still on the active roster. Like, but they still took Martinez, who I wanted Dallas to scoop up to pair with Blue. Little smash and dash there. And Scatterboo. Scatterboo goes to the Giants.
I'm trying to avoid it, but man, as a Jet fan, watching the Giants bring in so much flash, and then watching the Jets literally put themselves in the dictionary next to the word vanilla was just, it was painful to watch. Nice draft, Giants. I'll give it to you.
Joe Shane saved his job.
Yeah,
he had a solid draft, and he drafted a white quarterback. I mean, you can't. He checked every box. Mara's happy. The white Anglo-Saxon community, they're happy. You can't say enough. But yeah, Ashton Jetty's my pick, and that's all there is. Round of applause. Round of applause. Round of applause.
You go, boy.
Episode 64 is in the books. Marlon, did you have fun?
That was a great time.
Yes, sir.
Happy to be back, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Whether you like
yes,
it
there we go.
or don't like it, learn to love it because it is the best thing going today.
And we'll sign off like this. That's the hat. That's the belt. That's the other belt. That's Things Galore. That's Mongo. I'm U-Goboy. Steve's got a beard. We love you guys. See you guys later. Yahtzee.
Whoa. Hey, this a vibe, nigga. Whoa. Woo. Secure the bag. I need more. Hey, 3P Jordan. Whoa. Woo. I can't keep it on a low. This a whole vibe. I don't need a plug, no cosign. Thinking out loud, that's a gold mine. Mask on, yeah, COVID-19. Baby mama, yeah, looking like Rihanna. Rest in peace to George, rest in peace Brianna. Still kicking like Van Damme with my niggas in Amsterdam.
You go, boy.
Yahtzee.